A young man once went to Swami Chinmayanandaji and said, Gurudev, I have read Bhagavad Gita 3 times, but honestly nothing has changed in my life. Gurudev smiled and said, Good, you have gone through Gita 3 times. Now allow Gita to go through you at least once. That one line stays with you, doesn't it? Because if you are really honest, this is just not his story, this is our story. We read, we listen, we understand, but when life presses some buttons, we end up reacting in the same way. So in this episode, we will look at how to prepare the mind through one of the most practical teachings of Bhagavad Gita called Karma Yoga. And let me clarify this upfront. Karma Yoga is just not about doing your duties, being good, or helping the society. It is far more subtle, and the best part, you don't need any extra time or new rituals. If practiced properly, Karma Yoga doesn't just prepare you for higher wisdom. It reduces stress, brings clarity, and creates inner stability. So what exactly is Karma Yoga? How does it work in daily life? And how does it prepare the mind for deeper understanding? Stay with me till the end. Today, there is no shortage of information. YouTube, podcast, books, reels, knowledge is everywhere. But the real challenge is not about how much we know. It is about, has that knowledge really changed the way we think, the way we act and respond? And the Upanishads knew this problem thousands of years ago. And that is why they say very clearly that only a prepared mind can grasp the highest truth. And they call it adhikaritvam. And the prepared mind is the one that has sadhana chatushtaya, the fourfold qualifications, which is viveka, vairagya, shatka sampatti, and mumukshutvam, also known as 4 Ds: discrimination, dispassion, discipline, and desire. And we have discussed that in great length in our previous videos. But here is the catch. The text tells you what you need for a prepared mind, but it stays silent on how to build it, especially when you're living a life with work, family, pressure, emotions, health issues, and lack of time. Maybe it assumes that the seeker has all the 4 qualities already before they come to Upanishads. So what do we do now? This is where Bhagavad Gita steps in, very practically. So let us break it, and I request you to think along with me as we are talking. Let me ask you something. When do you do anything in life, like going to work, saying yes to someone, avoiding someone else, pushing yourself to achieve something, or say procrastinating? Why are you doing it? Or why are you doing anything? Just pause and think for a second. If you look honestly, you see that there are only 2 things at play. Either you are moving towards something you want. It can be money, comfort, appreciation, security, approval. Or you are moving away from something that you don't want. Discomfort, rejection, failure, loneliness, uncertainty. So the actions are motivated either by attraction or by repulsion. Attraction towards things that you want, and repulsion from what you don't want. Yes? See, if you seek relationship, why? Because of attraction towards companionship or repulsion from loneliness. And you may avoid relationships. Why? Because of attraction towards freedom and repulsion from the complication that comes along with it. And same goes with your job, your business, or anything that you do. So this attraction and repulsion that motivates our behavior is called as raga and dvesha in Vedanta. And please understand, this is not a spiritual flaw. This is how we humans are wired. But where the problem starts is that most of our actions, which are driven by raga and dvesha, takes us into three kind of loops. And let's explore that three loops as we speak. So let me ask you, have you ever noticed that the things that once gave you happiness slowly becomes things you need to feel okay? What I mean is, what was luxury at some point of time is now your need. It can be a role, a relationship, a certain kind of a lifestyle. At some point of time, you were absolutely fine without it. But today, you can't think of life without it. This loop is dependency, which is also known as karma bandhanam. You need a lot more to keep yourself happy today. Your karma has actually tied you because it emerges from very strong attraction and repulsion. So that's your first loop. And now let's move to the second loop. Where do you feel the maximum amount of hurt in life? With strangers or with people that you depend upon the most? Exactly. The deeper the attachment, the deeper is the pain. And that's the second loop, dukkha mishritatvam. That every pleasure that you experience comes with a potential pain. And carefully see that there is always a pain in acquiring and getting. There is a pain in maintaining. And there is a pain in losing. So pain and pleasure comes in a package. And let's talk about the third one. That even if the things goes well, let me ask you this, how long does satisfaction actually last? A job that you once desperately wanted, after some time just becomes normal. The comfort that you once dreamt of, today it feels like the minimum you must have. Because there is something inside very quietly saying, okay, what next? And that's the third loop, atripti. The outcomes don't satisfy you beyond a point of time. It asks for more. So all the actions which are driven by attraction and repulsion, raga and dvesha, causes dependency, dissatisfaction and suffering. And this is what scriptures point out. It is not the action which is the problem. We have to act, we can't stop. The problem is, what is driving the action from inside? I mean, tell me, when raga and dvesha, the sense of attraction and repulsion is very strong, can you really see the situations clearly? A small comment may feel like a personal attack. A small setback may look like a major failure. In fact, we start seeing problems where there are none. Remember Shankara's famous example, a simple rope can appear as a threatening snake. This is why the viveka, the clarity, becomes difficult. This is why vairagya, which is inner detachment, feels impossible, because there is always a sense of fear. And this is why the inner discipline, the shaktaka sampatti, doesn't last, because the mind is restless. So to have a prepared mind, the ragas and dveshas influence needs to go. So the pertinent question here is, what I need to do or how should I act without a strong influence of raga and dvesha? And this is where Shri Krishna steps in and says, don't stop your actions, just change the inner posture with which you act. And that shift, that internal reorientation is what Karma Yoga is all about. And what do you mean by that? How does that look in the real life? Let us see that right now. The first pillar of Karma Yoga is the Ishwar Arpana Bhava. Let me make it simple for you, which is the vision of Tvame, isn't it? So most of us have seen a homa or a yajna at home. Just recall for a moment what happened. What did we do there? We didn't offer anything casually. We didn't offer leftovers. We didn't say this is enough, manage with this. What we did in yajna is that we offered the best we can, some ghee, some wood, whatever is possible for us. And once we put into the fire, we don't keep on asking, when will I get the result? When will God respond? The offering is done, and what comes back is not in our control. Now pause for a second. What if your daily work could be done exactly in the same spirit? That is what Isvara Arpana Bhava is. That whatever work you are already doing, whether it is cooking, working, managing people, studying, caring for someone, you can make that action or that karma itself as an offering. How? By feeling that this work or this action which I am doing right now is an offering to the total, to God, to Isvara. I arpan my actions to Isvara. See, when you do a piece of work, what usually is running in the background? Will I be appreciated? Will I get the credit? Will this lead to what I want? That is raga and dvesha. Attraction and repulsion, both towards the work and the outcome. Now, with the bhava of Isvara Arpana, the focus quietly shifts to the feeling behind your actions. For example, right now, while making this video, I am offering my efforts as a prayer to Isvara. This work which I am doing right now becomes my yajna. I prepare in depth, speak honestly, give my full presence, fully knowing some of you may not like it, some of you may like this video. But if you see here, I don't need a separate time to pray, because my work which I am doing right now becomes an offering by itself. And I can assure you that once you start doing your work genuinely with Isvara Arpana Bhava, there are few things which you will become to notice on your own. This has been my experience. First, the quality of your work changes. And this is very interesting. When you are no longer doing something for a person or to get an approval or to protect your image, something relaxes inside. You're not cooking for someone anymore. Your cooking has become an offering. You're not working for your boss. You're working as a prayer. And when work becomes an offering, you naturally give your best out of sincerity, because the act itself becomes sacred. And you also know that when the ego steps aside, the quality of work automatically improves. And the second thing that you will see is the stress around the outcome reduces. This is a big one. Think how much of energy do we lose worrying about what will happen? What if this doesn't work? What if they don't like it? What if I fail? Sometimes we don't even start because the outcome feels too heavy. With Isvara Arpana Bhava, you keep reminding yourself, my job is to offer the best I can. That itself is the prayer. The result is not mine to carry. You still care, you still plan, but the burden of outcome drops. And when that burden drops, fear reduces and clarity increases. And the third thing that you will notice is that you will start going beyond your likes and dislikes. This one is subtle, but very powerful. There are many things in our life we simply don't enjoy doing. Mundane work, repetitive work, assigned work. Normally what do? We crib, we complain, we drag ourselves through it. But imagine when you convert the same work as an offering. What happens? You may still not like the task, but you are no longer fighting it internally. You are doing it mindfully, fully present, without resisting, because this work has been converted into prayers. So when you practice Isvara Arpana in some time, you will realize something important, that you are no longer acting based on your likes and dislikes. And this very quietly weakens raga and dvesha. And let me pause here and put a slightly different perspective. Little controversial, but let's understand this. Suppose someone is doing a fantastic job which looks very noble, taking care of an old age home, running a temple, a place of worship, doing charity, taking care of a large family. But now tell me, if somewhere inside there is a feeling that I should be appreciated, I should be recognized, I am doing something great, people should acknowledge my sacrifice over the years, is that karma yoga? Or is it possible that this action, even though which looks good on the outside, is actually strengthening the raga and dvesha inside? So please understand this very clearly, that karma yoga, in karma yoga, it doesn't matter whether you are running a country, whether you are running a company, whether you are running a household, or doing your daily mundane work. What matters is the attitude behind the action. An ordinary work done with right attitude becomes an offering, becomes a karma yoga. And this is interesting. In our live workshops at Tvame, we often get very intelligent questions. Sometimes people ask, can I do something wrong with the feeling of Isvara Arpana Bhava? Does that action become karma yoga? To put it differently, what it means is, can I hurt someone with the feeling that I'm doing it as an offering? What do you say? My answer is simple. Try hurting someone consciously with the feeling that you are offering it to God. See if you can actually do it. See, the core Upanishadic principle is what? The insight is that at the deepest level, everything is one. So if action is genuinely an offering to the whole, then how can some action deliberately harm a part of that whole? It doesn't work. And that is why Isvara Arpana Bhava is just not a mental level, a mental label. It is a feeling of offering behind every action. I'm stressing on the word feeling a lot of times because it needs to be felt that my work is a prayer. Coming back, we are subconsciously driven by strong attachment towards outcomes, recognition, rewards. What is it in for me? Or I will give my 100% only if the work is motivating enough. But Isvara Arpana challenges and changes that, where the work itself becomes an offering, where the outcome is merely incidental. And through this, the grip of raga and dvesha weakens. The mind becomes lighter and the action stops binding you. Now let's come to the second pillar of karma yoga, which is Prasad Buddhi. Because offering an action is one thing, it can be done, but outcome is where most of us struggle, especially when things don't go as you expected, where we slip back into our old patterns, our old behavior. And this is why Shri Krishna adds the second pillar of karma yoga, which is Prasad Buddhi. You already know what prasadam or prasad is. When you go to a temple or to a place of any worship, you receive prasada. And when you receive it, do you really analyze it, that is it too sweet today, or the salt is less, or why this stuff today? No, you don't. You simply accept it with a lot of reverence because it is prasada. Now pause and reflect. What if you could relate this to your life outcomes in the same way? Promotion or no promotion, success or failure, praise or criticism. Not calling them good or bad immediately, but saying quietly inside, this is the prasada. This is what came to me right now. And let me be very clear here. Acceptance through Prasad Buddhi does not mean approval, that anybody can do whatever they feel like and I keep quiet. Nor does it mean a sense of resignation, there is nothing I can do and let me keep quiet. What does it mean? It simply means this is the reality in this moment. And this is important because if we don't accept the reality in the moment, what we do is we simply react. Let's take a very simple example. You cook something with full sincerity, you really put a lot of effort, and your family doesn't like it. Normally, what happens? You feel my efforts are just not valued, nobody appreciates me, and why do I even bother so much? But with Prasad Buddhi, the inner conversation changes. You say, this is the outcome. What can I learn and do better? Or is this the best I could have done right now? The feeling is there, but you create a space for it. There is no drama, there is no attack, self-attack, there is no resentment. And the same applies at work. You don't get the promotion, you may feel disappointed, that's human. But instead of collapsing inside, calling it politics, favoritism, bad bosses, you say, this is what has happened, this is it. Now, what are my options now? Maybe change in a strategy, or have a conversation with my higher ups, upgrade my skills, or move on. All the actions are valid. But what is more important here is that these actions come from clarity, not from bitterness. So Prasad Buddhi is creating a space for accepting the current moment, just as you accept Prasad with reverence without questioning. And from that space, you take an action with Arpana. Do you see this? And now at this point, again during training sessions, some very real questions comes up. One may say, okay, I understand this for small things, but what about something really difficult? What about illness? What about failure of business? What about losing someone you love? Can you really accept them as prasada? And let me be very honest here, it is not easy. And we need to note two things very clearly. First, if you are new to this idea of Ishwar Arpana and specifically Prasad Buddhi, please don't start with the hardest situation in your life. That's what Karma Yoga asks you. Start small, with daily annoyances, with some minor disappointments, certain things which are going off the plan. Build the muscle slowly. And second, yes, there are people who are in the most difficult conditions, but have lived with a clear sense of peace. People with serious illnesses, people facing losses, people going through extreme uncertainty, they have stopped asking why me. Not because they have given up, but because something deeper has shifted. They live with a sense of surrender and grace. So what exactly is Prasad Buddhi pointing to? That at its core is the recognition that there is a certain orderliness in the universe. The Upanishads call it Rita. You can call it a law of karma, maybe at an individual or a collective level, emerging from Rita. What comes to us at any moment is the result of that orderliness. So instead of immediately labeling things as good or bad, success or failure, you simply say, this is what is here right now. I may not like it. I may want to work and change it, but this is where I am. That inner stance is called acceptance. And this acceptance does not mean being passive. It simply means you are no longer fighting the reality. And when you stop fighting the reality, something remarkable happens. You start seeing the situations more clearly. Your response becomes intelligent, and that's Viveka. Your attachment to specific result weakens. You stop clinging emotionally, that's Vairagya. And your resistance to unwanted results softens. Your energy is freed, and that leads to Shatka Sampatti. It breaks the habit of blame, it breaks the habit of victimhood, it breaks the habit of over-identifying with outcomes, and Raga and Dvesha loses their grip. So If you see, Karma Yoga is not something which is mystical, it is deeply practical. Offer the action, accept the outcome, learn and act again. Same life, but very different inner experience. And when this becomes the way of living, may not be perfect initially, but sincerely, you become stronger and freer inside. Hope you have understood what we have set out in the beginning. You see, you understand what Karma Yoga is and how it prepares your mind for Viveka, for Vairagya and for inner steadiness. It reduces stress, gives clarity and gives you strength to take actions fearlessly. And also, let me tell you that Karma Yoga has many layers. It has Sat Karma, Sat Bhavana, Sat Guna. We have just looked at one aspect, which itself is quite deep. We will explore the remaining as we go along. But before we close, I would want to leave you with a question. We have spoken how Karma Yoga helps to build Viveka, Vairagya and Shatka Sampatti. But what about Mumukshatva? The intense desire for liberation. Let me ask you, which one comes first? Does Karma Yoga slowly gives rise to Mumukshatvam, or does Mumukshatvam have to be there first for Karma Yoga to really work? What do you think? If you have watched the earlier episode on Mumukshatvam, keep that in mind and answer here in your comments. And if you haven't, I strongly recommend watching it. And yes, at Tvame we conduct live sessions on Upanishads. And if you want to convert the wisdom in your day-to-day living, please fill in the details which is there in the description below. And we will reach out to you as soon as the next batch starts. Till then, immerse your actions in Ishvara Arpana and see what is with Prasad Buddhi. In the next episode, we will dive deeper into a very different dimension, which is Mithya. And if you observe, we are going as per the shlokas in Tattva Bodha. So please like, subscribe and share, and let there be grace in our learning. Namaste.